Hello everyone, and welcome to the second live stream of the Guest EdTech Virtual Summit Dubai. Thank you everyone for listening. I'd like to say a big thank you to our international panel for this session. We're so pleased to have you speak today. A few bits of information about the live session before we get underway. There's a chat panel located on the right-hand side of the GRIP platform. Please feel free to ask us any questions and we'll pass them along to our panelists. If they have time, they'll get back to you. But they are recorded on the system, so we can always catch up with them afterwards. We are moderating the questions, so there will be a slight delay in them showing. We're also on social media during the event, so if you want to connect, follow us there at Guest Education on Twitter and use the hashtag GuestEdTech. And now I'll pass you over to the chair of this session, Nalini Cook, Head of Research for EMEA, ISC Research. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Another very warm welcome to everyone listening to today's session, where we're going to look at online learning from an international perspective. We're joined today by Richard Ballard, who's Head of Technology and Innovation at Raha International School. We're also joined by Andrew Turner, who's also in Abu Dhabi. He's the Group Head of Education Technology and Innovation at ALDAR Education. We have Derek Smith joining us from Nigeria today. He's the head of the International School at the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture in Nigeria. And finally, we're hoping to be joined by Puspa Dewi, who is co-founder of the Beverly School in Indonesia. So we've got a really wide range of people and types of schools in different countries to look at, excuse me, online learning today. In recent months, international schools have been widely lauded for ensuring a continuity of education for their students and for the quality of learning and support that they've offered, particularly in comparison to some local government and private schools in certain countries. ISC Research's initial interviews with international schools this academic year have highlighted some movement within the student demographic. As you might expect, given the current economic climate, many people are looking for more affordable options because of redundancies or salary cuts. But interestingly, we've also seen what some schools are terming a flight to quality, where parents are actively seeking out schools that deliver a high standard of teaching and learning through a strong online program. Over the next 45 minutes, we're going to be taking a look at what challenges the sudden enforced adoption of full online learning presented to these four very different schools represented here today, and how they face those challenges and what they're going to be taking forward from here. So without further ado, Richard, if I can come to you first, can you tell us a little bit about your school and how technology support facilitated teaching and learning during campus closures? Was it impacted at all by local and cultural considerations? I think we might have lost Richard there. Sorry. While we're waiting for Richard to jump back on the call, Andrew, perhaps if we can come to you, can you give us a little bit of an explanation of your role at ALDAR and how you supported, the wide range of schools that ALDAR has over the last few months?
Thanks, Amelia. Yeah, of course. So my main role at ALDAR Education is to work with all of our stakeholders to implement our instructional technology across our family of schools in Abu Dhabi. This involves working with all of our executive management team, our directors, as well as all of our school principals and their senior leadership teams and middle leadership teams. In terms of the support that myself and colleagues have offered during this very unique time in history for all of us, firstly is a lack of sleep, I think, that all of our technology departments had since term 2. But we were really, really fortunate in ALDAR Education due to our kind of family ethos across our schools. So for many, many years, we've spent a lot of time and done a lot of investment into our technology infrastructure, both in terms of technology and in terms of investment in our teams. So when the kind of call came to say, we have to go to distance education 100% within the Emirates of Abu Dhabi and the United Arab Emirates, We're very fortunate because we had a very, very strong team, a very, very strong support structure to call upon. For example, in all of our schools, we have a network of technology coaches, which are full-time teachers who meet on a regular basis with myself across our whole family of schools. So in a very, very short period of time, we mobilized a strategy to get all of our schools 100% online. This included releasing support packs. Going back to your point about cultural awareness and being in the demographics that we operate as well, all of our support packs were done in English and Arabic as well. So we gave support packs to staff, students, and parents straight away to make sure everyone felt confident on the expectations during this unique time. We also wanted to, in terms of the new normal, everyone keeps on talking about, it was very important that we looked at some of the things that we do across our schools, like competitions as well, and community events. So we worked with different partners. So we organized a Minecraft competition across our group of schools, for example. And also during the summer period, we initiated a virtual summer camp, so that all 19 of our campuses and the school communities could take part. And the last point I'll touch upon is the fact that we were very, very aware that during this unique time in history, we needed to keep on innovating as a school group as well. So an example of that is we launched the GCC's first social impact bond project in partnership with a lot of organisations in Abu Dhabi, the ATMA project. We launched this in March, which involved young adults of determination up to the age of 30. And that was done 100% online. So the 100% online nature that we had to go to didn't impact the innovation that we did as a company as well.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. It's really interesting, the innovation I think that's come out of the last few months. Puspa, let me come to you. You're based in Indonesia. I'm quite jealous to hear that you're in Bali this morning, this evening for you. Can you briefly describe your school and how you delivered learning during the campus closures? I'm not sure that Puspa can hear me at the moment. Let me move instead to Richard for now. Richard, are you able to hear me?
I can, yes.
Fantastic. If you can just give us a quick overview of your school. You're at Raha International in Abu Dhabi, and talk to us about how your technology support facilitated teaching and learning during campus closures.
Yeah, so Raha International School is in Abu Dhabi. It's an international baccalaureate school, and with about almost 2,500 students currently across our 2 campuses. We just opened a second campus. So
oh dear, I think we've lost Richard there. Apologies to everybody listening. We're a little bit challenged with our own online capabilities today. Richard's back. Fantastic.
Sorry, yes. So we're across 2 campuses. So yeah, when it was looking like we were going to move into lockdown, the first thing that we made sure was that we had connection with all of our staff, and so making sure that everyone had devices and also that everyone had the skills to be able to navigate an online web conference, a live meeting. And looking back now, it seems just incredible where everyone's got to and how familiar everyone is with that. But I can, really remember back in February, the testing that we did, the practicing we did with staff and with our groups to facilitate all of that. So, we made sure that everyone was connected so that when we went to lockdown, we were then going to be in a position where our staff and our departments could all consistently work together to deliver the curriculum that was needed. So that really helped. And also from a wellbeing perspective, that we were in connection with everybody and all members of our entire community. So our students and our teachers and parents as well. So we did a lot of work on making sure that was in place first of all, and then to, as I say, to be able to enable that consistency across, what parents and what students were going to be expecting and what they were going to be feeling as things were going to develop over the next few months. And now for our secondary students, it's continued right the way through until now. And then the other thing that we really focused on was then the engagement piece as well. And we're trying to come up with ways in which we were able to maintain the high levels of student participation on a daily basis, and making sure that that was going on as well, right the way through from our early years students right the way up through. So that was really the focus in the initial stages, was how we can ensure that consistent approach, keep everyone connected, and maintain that engagement. So we looked for platforms that could help us to do that. So we were already using
Apologies, everybody. I think Richard's just frozen there for a moment. Puspa, can you hear me okay? Derek, I'm going to move to you if that's okay next. You're in Nigeria, as I mentioned, quite a different setting to perhaps the schools we've heard from in Abu Dhabi. Can you give us a quick overview of your school and how you were impacted by COVID-19? And can you explain the technology infrastructure in your school and how you were able to support your students with distance learning when the campus was closed? And I the same extension to the question that I've asked the others, was that impacted by local and cultural considerations?
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thanks very much. Yeah, as you say, we're based in Nigeria. We're actually part of the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture in Ibadan, which is just north of the capital, Lagos. And we're actually an IB World School. We offer the PYP program, which interestingly enough, we got authorized for during the middle of lockdown, because we had our visit just before lockdown, and our authorization came through when we all weren't in school, which was interesting. So we're mainly a primary school, and we have a small number of children in grade 6 up to grade 8. We use the American system, because the school primarily serves the staff of the institute, and we have international staff and local staff. So the way the situation we have, which affected us going forward, is we have about a third of our families, a third of our children live on site within the compound, and about two-thirds of our families live in the city of Ibadan itself. So what happened is that the Nigerian government, along with governments across the world, closed down schools towards the end of March. With little notice. I guess we all got little notice, but we'd had a little bit of an idea that it was going to happen, and around the same time the institute itself went into partial lockdown, again because of the pandemic, because the government tried to restrict movement across the country, so it wasn't just schools. As a primary school, we're not overly focused, or hadn't been overly focused on online learning or anything at all like that, and so it was a little bit of a shock to us. In the weeks leading up to it, probably for about 2 or 3 weeks before it happened, we knew it was coming. So what we did is we spent some time, we identified Edmodo as a VLE that was quite easy to get set up, get running, get everybody organized on, and we also put all the children onto Khan Academy, and set up the teachers on a Khan Academy, and so we had everybody focused on that. But then again, because we're quite closely linked with our parents, and we were also able to produce physical worksheets, which were also electronic worksheets, that parents, we could either deliver to the parents on campus, or parents could pick up when they came into work. As they were leaving, they would pick it up from security. So what we had is kind of a blend of normal physical worksheets, along with the online learning and the different programs that were going on. In terms of Nigeria, perhaps the biggest challenge was making sure we kept communication open with parents. And what we found was that WhatsApp is the main mode of communication between Nigerians. It's very, very widely used in Nigeria. So all of our teachers set up a WhatsApp group for each of the classes, which meant that they were then able to talk to the parents. Parents were able to feedback, and we had some great stuff posted up by children. Would be making videos and then posting them on WhatsApp groups so the other children could see them, and it worked very well, because the reality is most other things are a struggle for internet coverage, particularly outside the institute. Within the institute, of course, we have quite fast broadband. Nigeria has some very fast broadband, but not consistently across the whole city. We found that some children were then having difficulty getting involved in things like Zoom. Even Edmodo, for some of them, was difficult at different times of day. So we had a whole system. So it was quite a challenge to move online from not being online at all. And it was also then balancing up with the situation that children had very different levels of internet access on a day-to-day basis. So trying to make sure that teachers were able to support the individual children, whatever their level of access was.
Yeah, it's good. The practical challenges, I think, have been immense to varying degrees around the world, and certainly something that when we're all busy thinking about teaching and learning, we've got to consider those as well. It's quite the challenge. Andrew, if I can come back to you, the local regulator in Abu Dhabi, ADEC, inspected schools towards the end of last academic year, and they were trying to determine if online learning had been effective during campus closures, with the intention of this informing requirements for learning models into this academic year. How would you say that's impacted your schools?
I'd say our schools always welcome, external visits, from our regulatory body, ADEC, and whatnot. And we take it as an opportunity to showcase the amazing work that's taking place in our schools. We've got an internal, robust school review procedure in place as well. We've got a school review team. So really, it just complemented the work that we're doing in our schools. It was great that all of our ALDAR academies received the highest rating from ADEC regards to our distance learning provision. And that's true testament to the work to all the teams. So, if anything gets raised, and our internal school review process is actually more arduous than our external review visits, because we always take the mindset that we'd rather exceed all the expectations set on us by our regulatory authorities. So the technology team, our inclusion team, our assessment teams, all work together with our schools to raise the standards across our schools in regards to distance education. Some of the feedback that we got from the internal external reviews did help us to inform how we've changed the model for this academic year. So, for example, we've deployed HiFlex kits, so hybrid flexible instructional model kits across our family of schools. So to date, we've actually deployed over 1,400 kits, which are webcams, tripods, USB cables, and more importantly than that investment in terms of kit and technology is the comprehensive training that we've given to all of our teachers. So we looked at what we were doing, and as everyone has said on the panel, it came as a shock when, a couple of weeks notice, right, we're going 100% online, because our organization is not a family of 19 schools that are virtual schools. We pride ourselves on our face-to-face interaction, but the lessons learned and the contingency planning that we did, and we all worked very long and hard during the summer, like most schools did worldwide. When we did the testing and we started deploying the kits, it was the training and really the kind of innovative teaching strategies that our teachers could do with those webcams and our video conferencing suites that we'd set up across our schools.
That's really interesting. Thank you, and it's nice to hear about all the extra things that the school has been able to provide in their support of the students. We've lost Puspa again, I'm afraid. Sorry, Richard. If I can come to you, are there elements that your teachers found valuable from their distance learning experience that you'd like to incorporate into a new, more permanent model of teaching and learning at Al Raha. Is it something that you're going to take forward in any way?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, there's quite a few things that we are looking to bring forward. So, I mean, one of them within Microsoft Teams, we've got the chat function. So I think what works really well within the class team is that we're noticing, students being able to self-help each other. So being able to ask a question, and then, rather than it all being directed at the teacher, it's very often, that the students figure it out themselves, and they can handle all of that. So almost having separate channels of communication that are set up for that to enable and facilitate that ability has worked really well. So I think we'll look to continue with that possibly. I think in the lower grades, we use Seesaw, and one of the options in there is to provide this oral feedback. So for our teachers, when they're providing the feedback to the student, instead of it being a typed comment, I mean, this function was always there, and we mentioned it, but this really took on a whole new level when the students were receiving their feedback from the teacher, and then rather than it being a written feedback, they were getting oral feedback like they would have done in a normal classroom situation. So utilizing more of that feature that was already there. So I think we're doing that a little bit more. I think another thing is this incredible, amazing amount of digital resources that our teachers are creating now. So incredible work that has gone on to create resources that can be reused and that are available then for the students afterwards. So, I mean, teachers have always been really good at creating resources, but some of these are really explicit learning, teaching skills that are available then for families as well to really understand, the context of what's happening. So it's been a lot of work, but I think a lot of teachers now that they're coming up to almost a full year, have now this incredible bank of resources. And I think one that's sort of an interesting one is that we found that some of our students, to a degree, have progressed better online because they've actually faced less distraction than they would have done in a normal classroom environment. So, I mean, not to, obviously being in school is the number.
Apologies, we've lost Richard there again for a moment. Derek, Richard was just mentioning all the effort that teachers have put in. We've heard earlier about having to get everybody online and professional development, etc. Can we talk a little bit about teacher development? For many teachers, this will obviously have been a huge shift in their approach to teaching and learning. What have been the most significant skills gaps amongst your staff, and how have you been able to upskill them to deal with that?
Yeah, definitely an area that we hadn't considered in our staff training, our development going forward. As I say, leading up to the pandemic, before the pandemic, we were doing a lot of work on PYP authorization, a lot of training in that area. We just got through that when this arrived, and it was like, my goodness, we need to do a lot of changes here. But I think, as I said, the big issue for us, well, I've got a bit of a feedback here. Let's see if I can reduce that. The big issue with us was really that, as I said before, each child in the class had different needs based on their internet access and what they were available to. So whilst we did a lot of training, as I said, particularly around Edmodo and Khan Academy, very intensive training to get all the teachers and all the children up to speed. So we had basic infrastructure when they went home. What I think was best for our teachers is the way that they've developed themselves. So they've identified a whole range of different
Hello.
resources that work for their children and adapted it. And sometimes it's educational resources. I mean, our ICT teacher, when we moved to Edmodo, then went on to the Edmodo course online and became an accredited Edmodo educator. He actually ran courses for other international schools here in Nigeria through the International Association of Schools. One of my teachers went and got accredited to use Flipgrid. So they would pull out the different things, but then also non-education. I talked about WhatsApp, and it's quite funny how WhatsApp became very much core to what we were doing. Internet access, particularly early on, was even an issue for staff. So in the first 2 or 3 weeks with the Institute in lockdown, they weren't able to come to school, use the internet facilities there. So we set up a WhatsApp group, and we would meet twice a day on WhatsApp, just through the chat function, where everybody would share how they'd solve problems with their classes, so that we could develop from that. And then again, linking up how to keep in touch with children. Some of the teachers, particularly those living on site, were able to use Zoom with some of the children. But again, WhatsApp video calls became something that we used with the children. Because at the start, and this was quite a positive thing, at the start of the lockdown, WhatsApp video calls could only use 3 people, which was quite restrictive. And actually, very, very early on during the lockdown, WhatsApp moved that to allow 8 people to take part in WhatsApp calls, which was a big shift for us, because that meant that our classes, not the whole class often, but sometimes maybe in 2 groups, could meet with the teacher. It meant that particularly our very young children could do circle time with other children. They could do show and tell and things like that. So I think really in terms of staff development, particularly through the lockdown, it was very much teacher driven to adapt and solve the problem that they had in their specific class, which I think was vital, as I say, because every class in our school had a different challenge based on how many of the children were able to access Zoom or WhatsApp or whatever. I have one boy who is only able to access the internet overnight. So he would get his tasks set during the day, and he would find he would be up at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock night, and he would do all the tasks. So we did a lot of asynchronous tasks that then they would discuss either through WhatsApp, through the chat functions on Edmodo, so that they could share their experience there. So it was quite interesting. And then I'm part of the Association of International Schools here in Nigeria that worked with Jess last year to do a conference here. And they moved to we had weekly seminars every Saturday morning, where we would actually get teachers from maybe 30, 40 schools across the country. And we'd all come together and try and share our experience in different areas. We, as a school, shared some of our experience with Edmodo, using Khan Academy. Other schools shared their experience, for example, with Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, Seesaw. And so that we really tried to make sure that we kept all the international schools across Nigeria the opportunity to keep staff up to date and think about alternatives if they were struggling with the resources they had at the time. So it was challenging, but it was interesting. I think it was quite. I mean, we're doing reflections at the minute, because we do our appraisal system because of the institute at this time of year, and just talking to teachers and them reflecting on it, they realized that they've learned so much, but it felt like such a panic because it was happening at the time. But it really has, for most of the teachers I've spoken to, they're saying it's really transformed their understanding of what they can do, because they were put in a position that if you'd asked them, they would tell you they couldn't do it. But it wasn't a matter of whether you asked; it just happened. So we had to do it, and everybody adapted, and everybody learned what was necessary to make sure the children kept learning.
It's great to hear that you're able to be in a position of reflection now. Thank you, Derek. Puspa, I'm going to try coming to you. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Sorry, I had a problem with technology.
Don't worry. I think we're all very familiar with the challenges of online working at the moment. Give us a quick description of your school, set the scene for us as to what your school is like, and tell me a little bit about the challenges that you faced with online learning over the last few months.
Yeah, actually, this is a new school. So after working in international school setting for almost 10 years, I then decided to co-found a school. And we began actually at the beginning of this year and then hit by pandemic in March. So it's quite challenging since the beginning, I think. Uh, our school is located in northern Kuta. If you are familiar with this tourism destination, this is one of the most popular destination in Bali, and it hits badly by the pandemic situation. So actually, our parent situation, our student situation, and all the surroundings, actually, everyone is struggling at the moment here in Bali. So we are trying our best to work with some challenges. I think four common challenges that we face. The first one is the access, as I've just experienced just now, the the technological divide. So the equity is real, actually. If I should say, it's like uh, how do I say it, like technological injustice maybe. So yeah, some of my students have access, they have devices, they have the Wi-Fi, but I can't ignore the rest. Some of my students also who have more than one siblings, they are struggling with sharing the device at home. And also parents are working, sometimes no one supervises them at home. And sometimes if they have grandparents, the grandparents can't do anything with the technology, and nannies also have limited educational background to support our students. So it's quite challenging actually. So yeah, that's the first one, the access. And then the next one is the capacity, because our teachers actually need to upskill in terms of technology and also time management. It seems that everybody is busy in this situation because they need to work in studio to make like pre-recorded videos and then prepare the resources as well. So yeah, it's kind of triple jobs at the moment.
Yeah, that makes sense. While we're able to hear you, I'd like to ask you a question that I posed to Richard earlier, which is there anything from this experience that you will take forward into the future in terms of online learning? Is there anything positive that you'd like to continue doing going forward?
I think the appreciation to face-to-face meeting. So with this situation, we then understand that we should prioritize what we should teach on face-to-face mode and what we can teach on online basis. Something like attitudes, skills is something that we need to teach when we have face-to-face meeting. And then also managing the expectation, maybe expect the unexpected. So yeah, more agile and resilient, responding to these rapid changes at the moment. So we need to listen more to people, listen more to our students, especially our students, because they are the core of our business, right? So yeah, we prioritize on our students' needs at the moment.
Fantastic. Andrew, let me come back to you. This increased use of technology for teaching and learning brings with it a need for improved safeguarding. What are some of the policy changes regarding safeguarding that your schools are making?
Well, this was a massive area of concern straight away when, you know, we moved down 19 schools, so over 25,000 learners and over 1,500 teachers to fully distance learning mode of operation. So the first thing was working in tandem with our great inclusion and safeguarding team, headed by my colleague Kate McMillan. So we worked hand in hand, myself and Kate, and straight away it was about engaging the community, because I think there was a fear really from all stakeholders, you know, staff, students, and parents, regards to, you know, synchronous and asynchronous learning, especially the synchronous, you know, like we're doing today in terms of video conferencing. You know, how would that work in, you know, K-12 environments when you're doing it all day, and what kind of ratio should you do to synchronous and asynchronous learning? So straight away, when we release support packs to all of our community, staff, students and parents, a big emphasis was regards to safeguarding and raising awareness of being safe online and good practice and etiquette. And, you know, in terms of, we give top tips regards to live classroom interactions, you know, how to use the chat facilities. We've leveraged mostly Microsoft Teams for our video conferencing and live segments. And we were very, very fortunate. We worked hand in hand with a partner and also Microsoft UAE to drive forward best practice in terms of our tenant settings, our technology settings regards to Microsoft Teams and Office 365, and also working on some assets, custom asset creations to help our teachers and students and parents really understand how we're going to do those sessions. In terms of those sessions as well, we put down different safeguarding policies and procedures regards to call environments, you know, for our students not to be going on to classroom calls when they're sat in their pajamas in their bedroom, for example. Also raising awareness to all of our families that, you know, as soon as little Jimmy or little Fatima jump onto a call with their teacher for a maths lesson or be that a moral education lesson, it's like a window into their household. So everyone needs to be aware that, you know, we can see into your house, and it can freak people out a little bit. So we made sure everyone was aware of it, and we made sure everyone was comfortable with it. I think with safeguarding and a lot of different themes that run with this kind of anytime, anywhere distance learning that we've all entered into due to the global pandemic, it's about a synergy and having close relationships with your school communities, you know, staff, students and parents, and make sure everyone's aware, because as we've experienced on this call, you know, the one thing that technology is guaranteed to do is fail at one point, be it because there's so many different moving parts to it. But if everyone's aware of it and everyone's working as a team, then you can get through it. And the main thing is that everyone's on the same page to make sure that our students get the best learning experiences as possible. Another thing that we've done in terms of safeguarding policies and procedures is things like teletherapy. So our counsellors going on, having silent observers present as part of the standard operating procedures in those calls. In our digital classrooms, having more than one adult present in those digital classroom interactions as well. So we have at least two staff members. There might be a staff member. Okay, so traffic going on there. So it might be that we have a staff member who's monitoring the chat, whilst another, the main teacher leading the session is walking through how to use one of our platforms or talking about what the expectations for the class. And really, I think a real kind of testament to our focus on safeguarding and inclusion and people's determination as well is recently we've announced a partnership with the Special Olympics UAE team as their education partner in Abu Dhabi and Al-Ain. So it really shows that one of our core values as a company is about making sure that we do offer an inclusive and holistic education experience for all of our students. And I think that's been, oh, there comes the train again. And that's basically one of our main areas we focused on has been about safeguarding. And we're very proud of all the different policies and procedures we've put in place.
It sounds like there's been a lot of work put in there. So thank you. Thanks for sharing there, Andrew. Oh, I thought we had Richard there for a moment. Until Richard comes back, Andrew, there's actually been a question from one of our listeners today asking if you could tell us more about the project. Now, I think that's referring to the social impact project that you were talking about a little bit earlier. Can you just give us, a quick overview of what you're doing and what have been the positive outcomes from that?
Yeah, no problem at all. In terms of that project, I mean, the main thing is that was to equip people's determination with employability skills, and then to help them secure employment after graduating from the program. Right. So full credit for that program goes to my colleague, Kate McMillan, our group head of safeguarding and inclusion. My role in the project has been the technology aspect. So it was all hands to stations when obviously COVID-19, and we thought, geez Louise, all the plans have been to do this in face-to-face training. So we basically put a contingency plan in place, and we utilised Shobi, a kind of a lightweight learning management system. And we deployed iPads and Apple Pencils to all of the students. So all of our ALDAR trainers and partner trainers were all trained by myself and the technology coaches in ALDAR education. And then they fully utilised Shobi to go 100% online. And we used Microsoft Teams for video conferencing. But the project's been a great success to date. I'm not going to go into too much detail because that's my colleague Kate. But from a technology perspective, it just showed that, you know, even during these trying times, there are solutions. But the main thing is to make sure that the professional development was there for the staff, students, and parents. So we did a lot of bilingual parent information sessions for the students as well, where our technology coaches who are bilingual themselves were running the sessions, make sure everyone was comfortable with the technology, because these iPads and Apple Pencils and are all being used by the students in their homes. Our IT teams have been great. We've been given remote support. Everything's been done by a distance, and the progress that students have been made to date is a true reflection of the hard work to everyone involved in ALDAR education, our partners for the project.
Thank you. It's really good to have that little overview, and I think it's a really positive note to end on, summing up the positivity that we've had in this call. Thank you all for sharing, not just your challenges, but the positive things that have come out of the challenges over the last 9 or 10 months. I hope that it's encouraging to those listening. I hope there's been some ideas shared that you might want to take a little bit further at your school. I'm afraid that we're out of time for the rest of today. There were a couple more questions, but I know from speaking to our panelists earlier that they're very happy for you to get in touch with them directly if you'd like to pose questions to them individually. All that's left for me to do is to thank our excellent panel today. Thank you for your patience, everybody, with the online technology. We've had some of the challenges ourselves today. Your feedback's been really valuable, and we really appreciate the insights and advice that you've shared with everyone today. And I'll hand back to Sarah now. Thanks.
Lovely, thank you, Nalini. And I'd like to echo Nalini's words. Thank you so much for coping with all the various internet connection issues. That was quite challenging, but it really was very good. And I could see from the comments coming in how much everyone enjoyed that and appreciated your candor on the subject. So thank you again. Don't forget, you can see all the live sessions again if you want on the platform. We'll be uploading the recordings of these sessions, so you can catch up for up to a month afterwards, and also connect with the speakers through the platform if you'd like to. We've got our next session coming up in about 10 minutes. It's an exclusive live keynote from Apple, so we hope you enjoy that. And thank you again to our panelists, and see you soon. Thank you.
Bye.